All right, so you guys ever heard of a tank that was classified as poorly balanced? Oh, you haven't? Okay, well, the M-18 Hellcat was that poorly balanced piece of military equipment. And how we all doing today? How we all feeling? Today we are going to be talking to you about the history of the M-18 Hellcat per requested. And since this is a long form video, I have a lot more time to explain a lot more cool things. I'll also be leaving a link to all the sites where I got all my information from down below in the description. But hey, let's get right into it. Okay, so in 1940, the United States Army called for a cordon of anti-tank guns to defend against enemy attacks. This is about the time where America was not in World War II, but was getting ready for it. But intel from France basically said that this tactic would not work. Due to the way that the Germans were taking over in such a fast pace, known as the Blitzkrieg, and the lack of real combat experience that the soldiers had at the time, they knew that this plan would not work. Despite this, they still wanted to try it. So, in April of 1941, Army Chief of Staff George C. Marshall tasked his men with the development of a specialized mobile anti-tank unit. This unit was planned for mainly defense and would involve fast-moving armor that would be able to counter a Blitzkrieg. Marshall soon then appointed Lieutenant Cole Andrew D. Bruce to establish this whole force. That same month, the United States Army Ordnance Department issued an immediate requirement for a tank destroyer with a 37mm GMC and an M375mm GMC, which were pretty much as big cannons strapped onto the back of a Jeep or a half-track. And to be completely transparent with you, I sit here and ask why. Like, who at the top really said, yeah, let's go with the 37mm because it'll definitely do better than a 75mm. Lieutenant Bruce would obviously agree with me because he himself was not satisfied with these designs of these vehicles for obvious reasons. With Bruce being tasked to this fast-moving army unit that could possibly stop a Blitzkrieg, he envisioned a faster-moving, stronger tank. So he thought of a way to do this. Bruce knew that this would be a possible thing by deliberately making a tank with extremely light armor so as to not hinder its true speed. But by this time, it was December of 1941, and America had previously been attacked in Pearl Harbor. Now at war with Japan and Germany, the Army would later put out requirements for a tank that would later become the M-18 tank destroyer. The production of this vehicle would go to the Buick Motor Division of General Motors. And honestly, this thing would go through a lot of changes in 1942 through 1943. They changed this gun a lot, having it from a 37mm all the way up until finally settling on the 76mm, as they should have. Now, understand the final design of this tank was fascinating, yet terrifying. The M-18 was quick, having a top speed of 55 miles per hour, and it had an amazing gun. But its armor was paper thin, and its top was completely exposed. Realistically, the M-18's armor would only reach up to 25mm, and that was only on its gun. And it had an all-around armor of about 12mm. And honestly, this would be a big no-no for the tank crews at the time. You see, the M-18 would later arrive in Italy, but tank crews did not want it. The tank crews were obviously well accustomed to tanks with armor. One of their main tank destroyers before the M-18 being the M10 GMC, which although it had a weaker gun, it had better armor. Seeing the drastic change in protection, this did not make anybody feel safe. And this is kind of why this thing was called poorly balanced. Light armor, more flammable gas, since it did not run on diesel. Poor placement of ammo rack, like that really mattered. But it was faster, rather reliable for mobility, and had an amazing gun. But now let's get into the juicy shit, the battles. And this is where I honestly would encourage you to do your own research because a bunch of different sources said a bunch of different things. So I tried going off of what was most reliable and what was stated the most. Although the M-18 was deployed in Italy, it would not see major combat until September 19th of 1944. This is when the 705th Battalion, in support of the 4th Armored Division, destroyed 8 Panzer tanks with no reported losses of their own. And you guys are gonna like this fight, because this is honestly my favorite. So I'm gonna try to help you picture. Imagine you're a German tank commander in World War II, riding along a column of 30 tanks. It's a rather foggy day. Then BAM! 5 M-18 Hellcats would attack this column of tanks, taking down 19 while only losing 2 of their own. Do you understand what I just said? 5 M-18 Hellcats, 5 light armored vehicles dismantled a German tank column of 30 tanks, taking down 19 while only losing 2 of their own in a fog. If that isn't the biggest fuck you to the Axis at the time, I do not know what is. And the M-18 would not stop there. This thing would continue to serve in the European and Pacific theater for the rest of World War II, reportedly having racked up at least 1,000 vehicle kills. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the tank that was classified as poorly balanced. The tank that would absolutely shake up World War II and bring fear to its enemy. This thing was classified as the most feared tank destroyer during World War II, having the incredible ability to, quote, shoot and scoot. This was the history of the M-18 Hellcat. I'll catch y'all later.
Wake up, filthy.